First, my grandma suffered a brain aneurysm hemorrhage while driving on a Dallas freeway while she was in her 50s. Her BFF and PIC, Greta, though they never knew or used those terms, they totally were, was able to pull the van over to the side of the freeway and get her the help she needed that saved her life. Grandma had been crippled by polio when she was 9, and I was just a baby when she had her stroke, so most of my cousins and I only ever knew Grandma as crippled, but she was the toughest woman any of us ever knew. No one disobeyed her. I idolized her and wanted to be just like her, but I didn't realize what I was wishing for. So I don't know how much more the stroke slowed her down or if she was the same as before, but she was sharp as a tack mentally until the day she died. A couple of months after I got out of the hospital, I actually took my first public steps walking down the aisle at her funeral. And then my maternal grandmother, Nani's mother, died of a stroke in her sleep. But they were Christian Scientists, which I find fascinating as a religious studies major. Therefore, no autopsy was performed. So we don't know whether it was an ischemic stroke caused by a blood clot or a hemorrhagic stroke caused by a rupture or burst aneurysm. But either way, it was another stroke in the family. Then I survived 2 massive brain aneurysms, hemorrhaging, the first of which hemorrhaged on my 20th birthday in June 2005 and the second in August 2005. Then, upon my release from the hospital on Halloween 2005, I learned of the 15-year-old boy who died suddenly and tragically from a subarachnoid hemorrhage. I was told he said my eyes hurt and fell down and never got up. Again, they change everything so fast. It must have been so stunning and heartbreaking for his poor parents. And then after my 2 strokes, and considering my grandma's hemorrhage, my Aunt Judy got scanned, where they discovered a slowly leaking brain aneurysm was to blame for her head pain. They coiled it, which is a non-invasive way of preventing them from bursting or bleeding, although it's not always foolproof, and coiled aneurysms can still have issues down the road. But that's why you keep an eye on them. Doctors do not mess around with aneurysms, and they shouldn't. Then, when I was living in Phoenix in October of 2008, 3 years after my injuries, my dear friend Kim suffered a hemorrhaged brain aneurysm. I was shaken and absolutely terrified when I heard. I was over 1,000 miles away. I couldn't do anything. All I could do was pray, although that's actually one of the best things you could do for someone who's fighting a ruptured brain aneurysm. Plus, I'd already survived 2 subarachnoid hemorrhages, and they carry at least 50-50 odds every time one occurs, and some statistics say 60% fatality. I kept thinking, what if I used up all the good odds for our group? Fortunately for Kim and her 2 boys, and for all of us who love and prayed for them, Kim came out beautifully. Now we always joke if we could just smush ourselves into one, we'd make a whole person. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that my husband's grandma, Bessie, whose ring I proudly wear, also passed away from a hemorrhaged brain aneurysm when my husband was little and my sister-in-law was a baby. In fact, it was her second hemorrhage that killed her. Saying I feel a connection to her is putting it lightly. Then, in May of 2017, I believe, my sister-in-law's brother and his then fiancée, now wife, posted on Facebook that her best friend's 5-year-old daughter had woken her parents up in the middle of the night screaming and pulling at her hair. The first thing I thought when I heard the story was brain aneurysm. But it was the last thing on her parents' minds, obviously, because it always is. And last but certainly not least, last summer of 2020, my old friend Stacy suffered a hemorrhaged brain aneurysm in her sleep. She was comatose by the time they realized something was wrong, and to make it even more heartbreaking, they couldn't even try to operate to save her life because she contracted sepsis during a recent long stay in the hospital. Her poor daughters had been so happy to finally get her home, and then to be hit with that. I had no idea that they wouldn't or couldn't operate on someone with sepsis, even in a life or death situation like that, because the risk of exposing others to sepsis is too high. I've always seen those sheets at my physiatrist's office warning about sepsis and what code to call if they suspect it. But I had no idea that the risk was so high that they couldn't even try to save someone's life if they have it. It's tragic and awful. And then if you include my friend's grandfather who was killed by one, that's 10 instances of brain aneurysms just in my own social circle. And I don't even know that many people. Although, here comes my husband. Although you can see brain aneurysms are well known in my own tiny little part of the world due to painfully earned knowledge, I've realized that too many people still aren't aware of how prevalent they really are. I mean, most of us only ever learn or know about them when they hit us or someone we care about. And it's often the last thing on someone's mind when something does happen. But that's why I want as many people as possible to see this video, to raise awareness about brain aneurysms, not only from prevention's sake, but also so that it does come to people's minds when something happens. When someone complains of the worst headache they've ever had, like Lisa Colagrossi, may she rest in peace, may God bless her husband and boys, or if they even start having excruciating pain in a previous injury. When my second aneurysm hemorrhaged, I just had a mild sinus headache, pressure headache like I usually get. But I had the worst pain I've ever felt in my life in my tailbone, where I'd broken it the previous autumn at Tulane. I'm sure we'll cover some of those times later. A lot of lessons and don'ts learned there in NOLA. Anyway, I could not get comfortable. No matter which way I turned, they tried to prop me up with these little styrofoam wedges they used to stave off bed sores, but I was in absolute agony no matter what. And I was viciously nauseated. I'd been battling bad nausea my whole time in the hospital. And having something wrong with your brain, like blood on it, or extra pressure, or fluid, or air on it, all of which I suffered through at some point in my 134 days, can make you feel absolutely miserable. So, if someone is suddenly in agony, with or without nausea, Kim was nauseated too. It could be many different things, but I want brain aneurysms, or even all aneurysms, to be in the back of your mind when you call 911 and mention possibilities. You want to get someone seen quickly? You say heart attack or brain aneurysm. I'm not telling you to say that if you don't think it's serious, but if someone's suddenly experiencing the worst pain they've ever felt, it's most likely serious. Unless they have serotonin syndrome related migraines, like my husband, which are horrible because a lot of the new cures don't work for that type of migraine. And those are really awful because you will feel the worst pain you've ever felt, but there's nothing really wrong. Now, usually if you have migraines, you've suffered from them most of your life or for many years. I mean, my husband was on the playground the first time he had a migraine. He had no idea what was going on, so he hid under the fort. Anyway, if you have severe pain and you don't know you suffer migraines, you should go to the ER or call 911. And if you do suffer migraines, you have to determine when it's migraine pain and when it could be more serious. I'll always tell you it's better to be safe than sorry, especially since Stacy was just killed from that stroke in her sleep. And she'd complained of a headache before she went to bed, and her poor daughter blames herself for not calling an ambulance, and I really wish she wouldn't. You just never know. And Stacy had suffered headaches her whole life. There was no way to know that this was different. But if you start having agonizing pain in your head or any other parts of your body, or you lose feeling or lose vision, start having numbness, difficulty walking, moving, or speaking, anything like that, especially if you have accompanying nausea, you need to call 911 and they need to haul ass. Okay, I have finally warned you about brain aneurysms. That had been weighing on me a long time, because the book I wrote didn't exactly reach many people. If it helped one of them, it was totally worth it. But I'm hoping I can reach more people this way and hopefully help more people this way. Because I always thought you had to get on someone else's platform to share your story and raise awareness. I didn't know you could create your own damn platform. Forgive me, I'm an old fogey and I still use the Facebook. I'll try to learn fast and make this somewhat entertaining though. So please do like, subscribe, and share if you like this video or found it informative. That will really help me to grow this channel and reach more people, which I hope will lead to me reaching the people I can actually help. I'll appreciate it more than you know. And again, please let me know in the comments if you have any questions or you want me to talk more in depth about anything. Also, I really want to know, have you suffered a subarachnoid hemorrhage, or anyone you know, or God forbid, have you lost someone to a subarachnoid hemorrhage? Please do me a big favor. Please let me know in the comments if you or someone you know has suffered one or more. People often have more than one, like yours truly. Please help me to show people that these aren't rare anymore. Soon I'll do another video about how I'm convinced that the reckless lifestyle I had up until my hemorrhages was to blame for why they were so large and ultimately did hemorrhage. Many, if not most people, will walk around their entire lives with unruptured aneurysms, and they'll never hemorrhage and they'll die of other causes. All of my research since my strokes has led me to believe that 2 to 3 pack per day smoking habit and the binge drinking played a huge role. And the trim spa, being overweight, and birth control didn't exactly help. And recent research has shown that strokes are increasing in younger people, and especially in cigarette smokers, and this new vaping craze with young kids is not helping. I recently learned from one of my doctors, one vape cartridge is an equivalent to an entire pack of cigarettes. That's terrifying. Anyway, I did a blog post on all of this years ago, so I'll try to update that info and make a video about it soon because it's really important. Okay, I will shut up now. Thank you so much for being here. I love all of y'all, and y'all come back.